Disha Mataji, His Grace Savyasachi Prabhuji has already logged in. Savyasachi Prabhuji, I am audible, Prabhuji? Prabhuji, I am audible?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Prabhuji, welcome. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your giving time. So I just give a brief introduction of yours for 2 minutes to the participants. It's a small group. More will be joining soon, but the time is 7:15, so we can start at 7:15. So Savyasachi Prabhuji has a medical background, and he has done his MBBS from Madurai Medical College. And while doing his medical degree, he came in contact with ISKCON, and 1999 he became full-time brahmachari. But his passion is Varnashram, establishing Varnashram. Prabhupada told that 50% is incomplete without Varnashram. And 2006, he actually, Savyasachi Prabhuji, started his mission towards Varnashram. So today's topic is concept and implementation of Varnashram as per instruction of Srila Prabhupada. And I request Prabhuji to keep in mind that Mayapur is a vast land, 650 acres of land campus, so a lot of scope, and also Mayapur is a international headquarter, so a lot of scope is there. And there is also, we know that the farm community, there are a lot of farm communities all over the world, like New Vrindavan and also Hungary, Krishna Valley. And Prabhuji, I forget to inform you that whatever the language, you can choose English or Hindi. It is okay, Prabhuji, because both the language you are expert. So whatever the language you choose, no problem, Prabhuji. So please start, Prabhuji.
I can share the screen, right, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It is screen sharing option is given, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Otherwise, Disha Mataji will help you. Any point of help is required. Disha Mataji is here, so she can help you. Prabhuji, one more thing, that Sarvadik Prabhu, the Prabhupada direct disciple, also joined. So please speak in English. It will be better for all of us. Also, he can understand. So you can speak in English. Prabhupada direct disciple Sarvadik Prabhu also joined. He has a lot of interest in Varnashram.
Yeah, anyone? I have to switch over. इसको डाल नहीं this also इसको भी कर सकते okay yeah Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manodishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Tadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shetav Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagadita Shri Vishakhanutamscha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram So today I have been asked to speak on how did Srila Prabhupada want to establish Varnasrama and why, and to touch upon certain aspects related to it, like in Mayapur, uh, we have a big land. How can we think of connecting some Varnashram project there, something like that? Though I can only conceptually speak about that because I'm not lived in Mayapur. I'm not aware of all the situations prevalent there. But principle wise only, I will try to touch on this. I want to begin by enumerating why did Srila Prabhupada want us to establish Varnashrama. We see that Srila Prabhupada said that 50% of his work is still pending, and that was establishing Varnashrama. So primarily, Srila Prabhupada envisioned three important reasons why he wanted to establish Varnashrama. The first one is that establishing Varnashrama solves the problems of life. Second, it helps one realize the purpose of human life. And third, it helps us spread Krishna consciousness. These are the three primary reasons for which Prabhupada wanted us to establish Varnashrama. The first point is basically a material reason for establishing Varnashrama. That means by establishing Varnashrama, we can solve many problems which we have created ourselves. Once Srila Prabhupada returned from a farm to a temple, and in the meeting there, Srila Prabhupada said that I am coming from the farm, they are growing their food, they have solved all the problems of life because all other problems are man-made. So birth, death, old age and disease, these are the real problems of material existence. And these problems we can solve by surrendering to Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna, and thereby becoming Krishna conscious. Besides that, all of the problems which we face individually or as a society, they are man-made because of primarily because of our disobeying instructions of the Lord as given in the scriptures of how we should live in this world. Primarily, Varnashrama is that culture of Lord Shri Krishna, the way Krishna wants us to live in this world, which is very favorable for practicing Krishna consciousness. So this is actually the spiritual culture. So this first reason is if we establish Varnashrama Dharma, then automatically the man-made problems will be solved. And therefore, it will create a very favorable environment for practicing Krishna consciousness. So I will just read one or two quotes of Srila Prabhupada to this effect. We have very limited time, so it will be very brief introduction today. We will not be able to go in great depths. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the purports. Famous purport. Srila Prabhupada says, has this civilization produced anything more than the doggish mentality of quarreling individually and nationally? Has this civilization enhanced the cause of equality and fraternity by sending thousands of men into a hellish factory and the war fields at whims of a particular man? Further, Srila Prabhupada states in another quote, the more human society engages in the exploitation of undeveloped material resources for sense gratification, the more it will be entrapped by the illusory material energy of the Lord. And thus the distress of the world will be intensified instead of diminished. Then Srila Prabhupada states towards the end of this quote, this is from Srimad Bhagavad, 2nd canto, 2nd chapter, 37th verse. Life is never made comfortable by artificial needs, but by plain living and high thinking. So, as we can see that comfortable life's definition, what people think today is wrong. They think that by accumulating artificial needs, they can make their life more comfortable. But actually, it is not so, as Srila Prabhupada points out here and at many other places. Life is made comfortable by plain living and high thinking. So, Varnasrama, establishing Varnasrama is connected with plain living and high thinking. That in few moments we will discuss in more details. So this is the first benefit of establishing Varnashrama Dharma, that we will not aggravate the material conditions. Prabhupada used to say, already when we are born with a fever of 100 degree, we should not increase it to 104 degree. This is practically we are doing with modernization. So by reverting back to Varnashrama culture, we will be able to live in a way that the material problems are the least. Second reason why Srila Prabhupada wanted us to establish Varnashrama is to help one realize the purpose of human life. This is the spiritual reason for establishing Varnashrama Dharma. That is, it is directly how establishing Varnashrama is helpful in our practice of Krishna consciousness. This is from, I'm now reading a quote again. This is from a conversation with Srila Prabhupada in 1976. There in the conversation, disciple is telling to Srila Prabhupada that the tractor, you said, this is the cause of all the trouble. It took all the young man's farm work. It forced them to go into the city and become entangled in sensuality. Srila Prabhupada response to that says, yes, in the city people must naturally fall into the mode of passion, constant anxiety due to needless lusting and striving. In the city, we are surrounded by all sorts of artificial things for agitating our mind and senses. And naturally, when we have this facility, we become lusty. We take to this passionate mode and become filled with anxiety. Then further, Prabhupada says, anyway, learn to love this natural mode of life. Life in a wide open space. Produce your own grain, produce your own milk, save time, chant Hare Krishna. Glorify the Lord's holy names. At life's end, go back to the spiritual world to live forever. Plain living, high thinking, ideal life. Modern artificial necessities of life may seem to increase your so-called comfort, but if you forget life's real aim, your so-called advancement of technology is suicidal. We want to stop this suicidal policy. So we clearly can see from such quotes that Srila Prabhupada wanted devotees to practice this Varnashram in their life as well. It's not just for the non-devotees, but for the devotees also. For all of us, Srila Prabhupada wanted that we should produce our own food, produce our own milk, clothing, all the basic necessities. And Srila Prabhupada is relating it to that. By doing that, how we will be able to save time and chant Hare Krishna. And by that, we will be able to go back home, back to Godhead easily. In another conversation, Srila Prabhupada says, no luxury. Live very simple life and save your time for chanting Hare Krishna. So many times Srila Prabhupada repeated this, save time to chant Hare Krishna. That means one of the important purpose why Srila Prabhupada wanted devotees to establish Varnashrama is that it helps devotees to practice Krishna consciousness. This is the second reason why Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish Daiva Varnasrama Dharma. The third reason is that it helps spread Krishna consciousness, and this is the preaching reason of establishing Varnasrama Dharma. So now we will also read a few quotes. This is the first one is from a letter from Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, who was then the secretary to Srila Prabhupada. This is the next aspect of Krishna consciousness which I wish to push forward. If I am able to travel again, then I shall visit the farms and make them perfect. On these farms, we can demonstrate the full Varnasrama system. If these farms become successful, then the whole world will be enveloped by Krishna consciousness. So we can see that Srila Prabhupada had that vision that whole world will become Krishna conscious. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prophecy is Prithvityachi Jyotar Nagaradigram Sarvat Prachar Vaibhav. And how this prophecy will come true ultimately, of course, the central point is chanting Hare Krishna. But there are, along with chanting, there are other things which will evolve by chanting Hare Krishna, which will make this happen. So Srila Prabhupada also talked about the four folds of this Krishna consciousness movement. So as the fourth element of establishing Krishna consciousness throughout the world, Srila Prabhupada emphasized this establishment of Varnasrama Dharma. And by this last step, Srila Prabhupada here says, if these farms are established and the whole world will become enveloped. And in today's this talk, we are also going to see the mechanism by which Srila Prabhupada envisioned that how by establishing farms, the whole world will become enveloped. What is the link between Varnasrama and people in mass taking to Krishna consciousness? In some time, we will also cover this theme. But here, the point which I am presently making is that this is the third reason why Srila Prabhupada wanted us to establish Varnasrama. This is a great preaching tool to establish Varnasrama Dharma. Further, Srila Prabhupada in another book, this is from TKG's diary, book distribution and farms. These are our solid programs. They can change the whole world. Book distribution farms, these are our solid programs. The whole foundation of animal civilization can be destroyed. If I have hope for still living, I wanted to organize farms, make it perfect, simple living, and high thinking. So, having seen the benefits of establishing Varnasrama Dharma, now we will come to our main topic of discussion today. How did Srila Prabhupada want us to establish Daiva Varnasrama? Srila Prabhupada himself established the opening of centers and Nagar Sankirtan, book distribution, and everything, what we see, what we do in our movement. This aspect Srila Prabhupada started and gave us the blueprint. He personally did not fully establish this aspect of Krishna consciousness. He mercifully left it on us, his followers, to do it in the service of Srila Prabhupada. So, but when we, the followers of Srila Prabhupada, try to establish Varnasrama Dharma, we should take heed of what blueprint Srila Prabhupada gave us to establish Varnasrama Dharma, because this is a huge task. Srila Prabhupada said it's 50% of the whole Krishna consciousness establishment. So, therefore, now what I'm enumerating is an understanding of mind which has been formed by going through various conversations and books of Srila Prabhupada with reference to this topic, having learned from Tejas Prabhu, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who was personally instructed by Srila Prabhupada in terms of establishing Varnasrama Dharma, and by hearing and associating with His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj, who has been guiding and inspiring his disciples and devotees in general to establish such projects. So based on that, I have summarized the blueprint of Srila Prabhupada under 5 heads. How Srila Prabhupada wanted us to establish Varnasrama, and how by establishing Varnasrama, the whole world can become Krishna conscious. So one by one, we will go through these 5 steps. The first one is establish model devotee farm communities to institute Varna system. What we are discussing today is little is like in a capsule, many things gathered. The purpose of this class is to give a brief synopsis. It may need, each one of these themes may need much more elaboration, but this is just an introductory class. The purpose being that it can initiate discussion in depth of these topics in future. And many of the devotees in the audience, some of them might have already pondered over this subject. So for them, it will be definitely easy to follow. So the first point is establish model devotee farm communities to establish Varna system. Srila Prabhupada again and again linked establishing Varnasrama with establishing farm communities. This is a very important point. Many times there is a discussion of establishing Varnasrama in the today's present day cities. But we see that Srila Prabhupada always, almost always, when he talked of practically establishing Varnasrama, he connected it to establishing farm communities, rural projects where we grow food. So why? What is the connection? That we will see in this point, the first point. Second point, with the support of Varna system in place, bring ashrama system to perfection. First, Varna system is instituted by establishing farm communities, and then ashrama system can be brought to perfection. And thus, together it becomes Varna ashram. So, thus create model devotee Varnashram society. This is step number 2. Establish model devotee Varnashram societies. These are models which we will create first. Then, next step, replicate the model among the non-devotees with the help of the leaders of the society at large. For establishing such Varnasrama societies at large, we need help of those who are in power, those who are social leaders, those who are political leaders. If we wish to implement this thing at the national level, international level. So first we have to establish models, and then as a step further, ultimately it should be taken up by the leaders of society, political leaders, social leaders, who can then, based on these models, can replicate the concept on the wider scale, on the national scale, like that. So this is step number 3. Next, by doing that, when on a very large scale, such Varnasrama societies are established, then roots of the present animal civilization will be destroyed. Just we saw one of the quote where Srila Prabhupada talked about how by establishing Varnasrama, the animal civilization's roots will be destroyed. So this is the next thing which Srila Prabhupada envisioned. And then people will take to Krishna consciousness in mass. Whole world will be enveloped by Krishna consciousness. So these are the 5 steps which I am able to come up with based on Srila Prabhupada teachings. Now we will go one by one quoting Srila Prabhupada for each of these themes. The first one, establish model devotee farm communities to institute Varna system. Now, we are reading from one of the conversations of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada says, first of all, Varna and Ashrama, then. When the Varna is perfectly in order, then Ashrama. Ashrama is especially meant for spiritual advancement, and Varna is general division. It must be there in the human society or they are on the animals. If Varna is not there, then this is society of animal. And when the Varna is working perfectly, then we give them Ashrama, Varna Ashrama. That is later on. Further, Srila Prabhupada says, first of all, the whole society must be divided into 4 Varnas. Otherwise, there will be chaotic condition. That is what is the position now. What he has to do, one does not know. And there are so many unemployment. But if you organize a society into Varnas, there will be no question of unemployment. So, Srila Prabhupada here teaches us that first, out of these 2, Varna and Ashrama, Varna has to be established. Varna refers to that system by which we as a society grow our primary needs of material existence, utilizing individuals' swabhava and thus categorizing, classifying the whole human society into 4 different sections, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So, Varna primarily refers to meeting our material needs. And as Srila Prabhupada and as we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahmanas are compared with the head of the society, Kshatriyas with the arms, Vaishyas with the belly, and Shudras with the leg. Each of them are contributing to the specific need of the whole society, and together by cooperation, they fulfill all the material needs of the human society. So this is primarily when we say Varna system, what we refer to. Once these material necessities are procured in a sane way, then ashramas, which are specifically meant for spiritual advancement, can be established properly. Srila Prabhupada also said that always in any society, there will be some sort of varnashrama system, because every society has to fulfill their material needs. Even today's modern demonic society also has arrangement to procure material needs, but because the society is fueled by greed, their system is geared around aiming at artificial necessities of life. They are not satisfied with providing the fundamental necessities of life, roti, kapda, makan, as it is said in a phrase in Hindi, food, shelter, and clothing. So because of that, the present day modern society, they have made this whole system of providing the bodily necessities and material necessities very complicated and very sinful. Because of which the Varna system which we presently are having is a demoniac Varna system. When we refer to Daiva Varnashram system, we refer to the system established by Krishna, which helps us to become Krishna conscious, which is centered around the theme that we just produce our fundamental material needs, that too in a way that Krishna wants us to do, that is by obeying Vedic scriptures. Whereas the occupational system prevalent in the modern human society today is demoniac because it does not follow Krishna's orders. It is a man-made system. It is primarily fueled by greed, as I said earlier. So, as we see in the history also, the specific precursors of this present-day modern civilization is the Enlightenment era of the 16th, 17th century, where because of the effect of Kali Yuga's advancement, many intellectuals arose, especially in the West, who gave different ideas, which were all without the concept of God, and primarily based on the illusion that we are here to explore this world and we can know everything about this world ourselves. And ultimately, the goal of life is to enjoy because we live only once. Ultimately, we are just this material body. So, based on this fundamental misunderstanding, this modern civilization has been established. And the Varna system presently, the occupational system presently, which we see, is therefore fully geared to create artificial necessities of life. And therefore, this is Asuri Varnashram system. This is Asuri Varna system. Asuri Varnashram system is unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. It's completely sinful. So therefore, we are talking here of establishing Daiva Varnashram system, that is, system of procuring our material needs as per Krishna's instructions. Here we see, on these farms we can demonstrate the full Varnashrama system. So Srila Prabhupada, how he linked establishing Varnashrama with establishing farm communities. Prabhupada says, on these farms we can demonstrate the full Varnashrama system. In another place, Srila Prabhupada says, I will go to Gita Nagari, I will sit down and I will teach you how to live off the land. So now, how does instituting Varna Dharma translates into establishing farm communities? We need to see this link. So, when we are talking of establishing Daiva Varnashrama, that is according to Krishna's system, there are two key factors in it. One is that we should be able to grow or procure our primary material needs locally, not globally, locally. Wherever we are situated, from the surrounding place, Srila Prabhupada used to refer to till the distance a bullock cart can move. That means we are talking of a few kilometers radius. In that, from that locality, we should be able to procure all the basic needs of human society. There may be a few things a few percentage like salt or some spices which we may not grow, and therefore they were merchants who used to bring such things from far distances. But 95% of all our needs we should be able to grow, procure from the place where we are living. This is the first important key factor in Krishna's Varna system. Our most important fundamental necessity of material existence is food. Annad bhavanti bhutani. Food is grown on fields by agriculture and cow protection. Agriculture and cow protection is done in rural setup. Cities are not the places for agriculture. Cities, present cities I am talking of. Cities are the places for industries and for residential places for those who are working for these industries, the workers, the technicians, etc. But definitely, the cities are not the places for agriculture. Therefore, if we have to procure our primary necessities, the most primary necessity is food, locally, wherever we are situated, we cannot be situated in the cities. If we are living in the cities, our food has to be transported from far distances. Therefore, we see presently the trend is globalization. We are trying to make this whole globe into one self-sufficient unit. Whereas Krishna's system is that each village or a group of villages together serve as self-sufficient, sustainable economic unit. All economy means procuring our fundamental bodily needs, material needs. So, modern cities, if we are living in those cities, the Varna system, Krishna's Varna system cannot be practiced. Because the first thing, the food itself cannot be grown in the cities. We cannot have cow protection in the cities. These two are the foundation for all our material needs, land and cows, agriculture and cow protection. And both these things are not possible in the cities to be done properly. Cows needs fields, grazing pastures, and it's a whole system interlinked, agriculture and cow protection. So therefore, we need a rural setup. We cannot do this in industrial setup of the present day cities. So therefore, sanity in Varna system will come only by establishing such farm communities, that is villages. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada talked of establishing Vrindavan villages, not cities, Vrindavan villages. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada always repeatedly connected establishing Varnasrama with establishing farm communities first. Because on these farms only we can demonstrate establishment of Daiva Varna system, real Varna system, Krishna and the system envisioned by Krishna. So this is point number one. The key point in Krishna's Varna system, number one, that locally our fundamental material needs should be procured. Second, there should be division in the human society based on their particular inclination and capability. And by that, with that division, we should be able to procure those fundamental needs. So we should be situated locally. That means we should be able to procure locally, and then we should divide into 4 Varnas based on individuals, human nature into 4 categories: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and then further there are many subcategories. So these are 2 key points in establishing Krishna's Varna system, and because of that, Krishna's Varna system is established only in a rural setup properly. Then now we read some portions from Srila Prabhupada's books and conversations. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 2nd chapter, 37th verse. There is no need of machines and tools or huge steel plants for artificially creating comforts of life. Life is never made comfortable by artificial needs, but by plain living and high thinking. So Srila Prabhupada in this purport says, why do we need these machines and tools? That means no cities. These are man-made things. This is for artificially creating comforts of life. Then further, Srila Prabhupada in another place says, don't waste time for bodily comforts. Don't waste time for luxury. Don't be allured by the machine civilization. This is soul-killing civilization. See how emphatically Srila Prabhupada states here. Don't be allured by the machine civilization. This is soul-killing civilization. And then Varnashram will help you to divide the society. Okay. And further we go. In another place, Srila Prabhupada says, just like here in this Lichmore heap, there are so much land lying vacant. You produce your own food. Why you are going to London to the factories? There is no need. This is wrong civilization. Here is land. You produce your food. If you produce your food, there is no need of going 100 miles, 50 miles on your motorcycle or motor to earn your livelihood. Why? There is no need. Then you require petrol. And petrol, there is a scarcity. Then you require so many parts. So many. That means you are making the whole thing complicated unnecessarily. There is no need. Simply you keep to the land and produce your food, and cows are there. They will supply you milk. Then where is your economic problems? If you have sufficient grains, sufficient vegetables, sufficient milk from the land where you are living, where are your economic problems? So please note this point here. From the land where you are living. That means Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing very clearly, wherever we are living, we should be able to grow our food. That means rural setup. And Prabhupada is saying, therefore, what is the need to travel 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers? Prabhupada, everyone should remain in the spot and produce everything as he requires, and God will help you. As clear as that. Everyone should remain in the spot and produce everything as he requires. So local living, local. This is what Srila Prabhupada wanted. This is, therefore, farm communities are required to establish proper Varna system. So this is step number 1, that we have to establish farm communities. When these farm communities are established, and Varna system established. Now we have not just the farmers is farming is one of the Varna, but then there are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. But Varna system refers to procuring all our material needs. Now, if we are situated in a rural setup, we are producing our food, and then all other necessities, when we are living in one place, we can produce other things as well. For example, when we are living in a rural setup, then Brahmanas are there, they can live on the farms, and then they can provide education to the society. And when we are living, we can protect. That means the Kshatriyas can be there to protect, and then Shudras can be there to help. So in the rural setup, we can practice all these 4 Varnas. Whereas if we are situated in cities, we cannot practice first and foremost Vaishya Varna system. We cannot have agriculture in the cities, we cannot have cow protection cities. And therefore, all other Varnas also become actually displaced, not properly practiced. Whereas in rural setup, all the 4 Varnas can be practiced. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So therefore, on the farms, we can demonstrate perfectly the Varna system, whereas not in it cannot be done properly in the cities. This is the point which I am emphasizing. This is very important point for our society to understand, according to my understanding, that we need to establish modern farm communities. That's the step number one, to establish Varnashram system. Now we go to step number two in Srila Prabhupada's blueprint of establishing Varnasrama in the world. With the support of Varna system in place, bring Ashrama system to perfection, thus create model devotee Varnashram society. So as we read a quote from Srila Prabhupada earlier, once the Varna system is properly placed, that ashram system can be brought to perfection. Now we see that devotees living in the cities where there is no Daiva Varnashram system, they face so many problems. Most important one is no time, because the whole society, modern society, the city society, city culture is set up in such a way that we are just lusting after artificial needs, and therefore there is no time. Even if you don't want to work so hard, but because you are just a small tool part in the whole machinery, you cannot but help. You cannot help it. You have to run at the pace the society is running. You are just a worker, small person in the whole machinery. So you have to go at that pace. So therefore, we don't have time. And then I have just enumerated here a few of the problems which we face to practice Krishna consciousness. That shows that ashrama is not properly practiced, because ashrama is primarily meant for spiritual practices. So, because of Varna not being Daiva, it being Asuri, therefore ashramas are not properly able to function. And some examples of that: lack of time to practice even basic hearing and chanting, recommended by Srila Prabhupada. Devotees in the cities face financial difficulties. Gradually, we are entering into era of recessions, longer and longer recessions, and so more and more difficulties in the future. We can already there are more in the future. Inability to avoid bad association, very important factor. If we don't have such farm communities of devotees, then we cannot avoid bad association. When we cannot have properly devotee association in the city setup, generally devotees are able to come together only on Sundays for a few hours. The rest of the time, they cannot avoid bad devotee association. Next, we are forced to send our children to the slaughterhouses because we don't have a Gurukul. Another point Prabhu wanted me to touch is that Gurukula, and they are very much part. Goshala, I already said, the land and cows, these are the basics of Varna system. So we need to have cows, first land, and then cows, and then devotees living on the land, and then Gurukula. So if we don't have our own education system, that is Gurukula system, then we are forced to send our kids to the modern education setups, modern system, modern curriculum, that what Prabhupada called as farmhouses. The next difficulty we face in practicing Krishna consciousness, that means ashrama not in place, is unstable family life. Because of the wrong values, the whole modern society is based on. We are facing more and more this problem, increasing divorce rate because of so many social evils and misconceptions. Family life is practically taboo in West, and it is becoming increasingly so in India as well. Engagement in sinful occupations. In the city, you are forced to participate in sinful activities, whether you like or not. And then poor health. Poor health. In the city, our lifestyle itself is such that we are bound to have poor health. And then the food which we eat is without nutrition, and not just without nutrition, it is full of all chemicals, poisons. So what else we can expect? Environmental problems. Because of industrial setup, we are facing environmental problems. There are wars. Always there is some war going on, and there is always a danger of impending world war again. then there is unemployment, then there is corruption, there is crime. So all these things are some problems. So once we are based, we are placed in a rural setup and Varna is in place, then all these problems will be minimized. Next step, replicate the model among the non-devotees with the help of the leaders of the society at large. So Srila Prabhupada said that he envisioned that cities are going to crumble, cities are not going to last. So before they crumble, we need to establish, demonstrate alternatives. So that when they crumble, finally, then we have alternatives, and then the leader society can learn from those models and establish them. Just I will say one quote we will read. Prabhupada, there will be no city. We don't want cities. What about our city temples? Prabhupada, no, for the time being, for the time it may go on, but as we make progress, there will be no necessity. For the present, we have got, because city is there, we are there. But suppose the city is closed, we shall be there. If the city is closed, you still will be there. So that's the point. Prabhupada said 100 years at that time, maybe 400 years this will go. So it's sure that it's doomed. It's not going to last. When we exactly see, we don't know, but definitely it is doomed. The whole city culture. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada envisioned that at a bigger scale, not just models, but it needs to be replicated at the national, international level. Now, another quote Srila Prabhupada says, our main aim is how to give them Krishna consciousness. But if they are already disturbed in every respect, then how they will take it? Therefore, we are taking these subjects to help them to come to Krishna consciousness. And this is the method Varnasrama. Okay. Then the next step is that with this Varnasrama society established at a larger scale, the help of leaders of the society, political leaders, social leaders, etc. Then foundation of the present animal civilization will be destroyed. So we already have this quote, reading it again, book distribution farm, these are our solid program, they can change the whole world, the whole foundation of animal civilization can be destroyed. So because this present day animal civilization is thriving, because there are cities, there are people who ascribe to it, and therefore it is thriving. So naturally it is doomed. And even before that, if we are able to establish such farm communities on a large scale, many such villages, then naturally this animal civilization will not sustain. Because like Prabhupada said, yes, if you are situated locally, why do you need petrol? There is no need of petrol. So all these petrol pumps and the whole business of producing petrol will stop if we don't need petrol, for example. So like that, if we are living locally in these farm communities, many such people, a substantial portion of the human society, if they live in such rural setup, then naturally these industries will not be able to sustain. So therefore, the foundation will be destroyed. Then next step, people will take to Krishna consciousness in mass. The whole world will be enveloped by Krishna consciousness. Now this is the last step, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prophecy actually will be fulfilled. I told you earlier that we will see in this talk how what is the mechanism of by establishing Varnasrama, how the whole world will be enveloped in Krishna consciousness. Now we are discussing this final step, the mechanism. How? So there are 2 points in that. One, that one main reason why people in mass are not able to take to Krishna consciousness is that this civilization is promoting anarthas. And when people in general are engaged with anarthas, it makes difficult for the mass to take to Krishna consciousness and to practice properly, to advance properly. Therefore, if we are able to establish this Varnasrama society, Varnasrama dharma in the human society at a big scale, at a big scale, then this anartha civilization will be stopped. Foundation will be destroyed, and it will be replaced by Varnasrama. And therefore, it will pave way for the mass to take up Krishna consciousness, because anarthas are not. Anartha upasamam sakshat bhakti yoga madhokshaje. Bhagavatam is to destroy, and practical application of the Bhagavatam includes establishing Varnashrama dharma, thereby demolishing these anarthas at a big scale. And once anarthas are broken, are destroyed, then people will be able to take up Krishna consciousness and practice Krishna consciousness properly. So, this quote again, if these farms become successful, then the whole world will be enrolled by Krishna consciousness. And now we are discussing the mechanism. So here, I will read one portion, Anartha. Here, this is from one morning walk. Prabhupada says, he will get food. Food they can grow very easily. But they, Anartha, this is called Anartha. Anartha means unnecessarily. Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sakta Ata Anartha Kriya Tato Anartha Nivritti Syat. So Anartha Nivritti civilization, not Anartha increasing civilization. Anartha increasing. Civilization means Anartha Nivritti Syat, because we are complicated by Anarthas, unwanted things. This way there is bulls, horses for transport. But what is the use of these big motor cars, acquire petrol, machine, factories, so many things. So you see here how Srila was emphasizing that this civilization, present civilization, is Anartha increasing civilization, whereas real civilization means Anartha Nivritti civilization. And therefore, this is one way that anarthas in a mass scale will reduce, and therefore people will be able to take to Krishna consciousness. Another important means by which people will be able to take to Krishna consciousness is that, like we will read this quote from Srila Prabhupada first, and then we will discuss. Prabhupada says here, yes, for the big scale, this is required. In big scale, you cannot make all of them as brahmanas or sannyasis. No, that is not possible. This is a small scale. How many percentage of people of the world we are controlling? Very insignificant. But if you want to make the whole human society perfect, then this Krishna consciousness movement should be introduced according to the Krishna's instruction. If you want to do it in larger scale for the benefit for the whole human society. Now we are picking up some of them best. That is another thing. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said para upkar. Why a certain section should be picked up? The whole mass of people will get the benefit of it. Then it is required, systematic. Swe swe karmanya viratha samsiddhim labate naraha. Para upkar means mass benefit, not there is a certain section. Then we have to introduce this for Varnasrama dharma. It must be done perfectly, and it is possible, and people will be happy. So now this is a very important point. This shows us the connection between establishing Daiva Varnasrama and whole world becoming enveloped by Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada says here, presently, we are only picking some of the best people in the society, the Brahmanas only. And this we see that when Srila Prabhupada came to West, he first focused on actually training Brahmanas. Prabhupada, on many occasions, he spoke and wrote that this is our objective. We want to train the brain, the Brahmanas. So, but gradually, as our movement grew, Srila Prabhupada could see, Srila Prabhupada saw that because not everyone is able to come up to the level of Brahmanas, they were falling down. And therefore, more and more towards the later half of Srila Prabhupada's manifested presence in this world, and towards the later half of Srila Prabhupada's establishing Krishna consciousness movement, we see Prabhupada emphasizing more and more on establishing Varnasrama dharma compared to what he did in the first half. Because Srila Prabhupada established Krishna consciousness in progressive stages. So Varnashram was to come later. Prabhupada already before going to West had this fourfold, Prabhupada called fourfold Gandhian movement. He wrote a letter to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So Srila Prabhupada already had this plan. So the first part was to establish chanting of the Hare Krishna, that is starting opening temples as the places where people can conglomerate, get a devotee association, and then spiritual initiation was the third step. And in the fourth step, Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish Varnashram Dharma. So why? Because with opening of temples and engaging people in preaching activities, we are attracting only the Brahmanas. But a small section of people in the society are Brahmanical. We cannot expect everyone to be Brahmana. Society will not run in that way. And society is not like that. Most of people are Vaishyas or Shudras. So how to engage them in Krishna consciousness? The city temple setup is suitable to engage those with Brahminical nature in full-time Krishna consciousness. What happens to others? So therefore, they cannot be full-time preachers. This is the work of Brahmanas. So therefore, we see that those who were not Brahmanas, they were not able to maintain their vows in a Brahminical setup. They were becoming weak. And Srila Prabhupada, when he saw it, then Srila Prabhupada gradually started emphasizing more and more on establishing Varnashram. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada is saying here that now on a small scale, we are attracting a small section of society. Not everyone can be Brahmanas and sannyasis. And if we have to engage everyone in Krishna consciousness, then we have to establish Varnashram. So, this establishing Varnashram, starting with establishing farm communities, give opportunity to people of all the Varnas to engage in full-time devotion service and in association of devotees. And thereby, everyone can advance in Krishna consciousness properly. But if we don't have Varnasrama system, we only have temples, then only devotees having Brahminical nature, that too mainly brahmacharis and sannyasis, not even all the grahastha brahmanas. Only brahmacharis and sannyasis can be engaged in full-time activities. What happens to the others? So, by establishing Varnasrama, everyone in the society can be engaged in Krishna's service properly, and therefore, by establishing Varnashram system, mass will take to Krishna consciousness, will be able to practice Krishna consciousness, and therefore, this statement that if these farms are established, and the whole world will become Krishna and will be enveloped by Krishna consciousness. This is the link. So, in this way, to summarize today's talk, Srila Prabhupada wanted us devotees to start to establish Varnashram system. First, starting with within the devotee community and extending it further to the non-devotees also, for three purposes primarily. The first one being the material purpose, to solve the material problems of life, which will pave the way to make the situation of this world more favorable for practicing Krishna consciousness. The second reason being that directly it helps devotees to practice Krishna consciousness in a better way. Spiritual reason, by giving them devotee association, for example. Third, the preaching reason, that by that this animal civilization, the present animal civilization, will be destroyed, and people in mass will be able to take to Krishna consciousness. So these are the three reasons why Srila Prabhupada envisioned establishing Varnashram, and how Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish Varnashram. First, establishing model farm communities in which we will be able to establish Varna system properly. Next step, once the Varna system is in place, then ashramas can be brought to perfection. And thus there will be model Varnashrama societies. This is with the devotees. Step number 3, then we expand this concept. Now we take beyond the devotee community, among the non-devotees also, with the help of leaders of the society, political leaders, etc. And we replicate these models with their help on a bigger scale, nationwide scale, international scale. And then fourth step, with that, the animal civilization, this present day industrial civilization, which already anyways do, will be, the foundation will be destroyed. And then the other thirsts will be minimized. And then, because with these farm communities, people of all varnas can be engaged in full-time devotion service. Therefore, in mass, people will be able to practice Krishna consciousness, take up Krishna consciousness, practice Krishna consciousness, and therefore, this world will be enveloping Krishna consciousness. So with these words, I will end here today's talk. Now we can take some questions if there are. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the class. Prabhuji, I request Sarvadik Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple, to comment. After that, the question answer session will start. Sarvadik Prabhu.
Please accept my humble
Thank you. Accept mine, Prabhuji. Thank you. You've raised some very important points in a very logical way, point by point. I had a couple of questions. You mentioned the importance of establishing farm communities. One of the reasons being that we expect material civilization and its structure to deteriorate and fall in due course of time. So why is it that in ISKCON, we're spending millions of dollars and pounds and rupees to establish temples in the cities? It seems that if that is going to happen, we should be investing money to buy land and establish farm communities, because there's no Varnashram without land. And there's very few communities that have any substantial land.
Yes, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji.
I accept mine, Prabhuji.
So, my little understanding on that is that till the cities are there, we have to preach in the cities, but definitely somehow after Srila Prabhupada's living the physical presence, we have this whole idea of establishing Varnasrama has gone to the back, and therefore we have not, as you rightly said, we should be investing money in purchasing lands and establishing such farm communities, because this is the future. So this we should do it, and having failed to do so, we are already seeing the consequences. So I would say this is because somehow our leadership, after Srila Prabhupada's physical absence, somehow this theme of this Prabhupada desire of establishing Varnashram, because it is difficult, and we just went along with the flow. Whatever was already established by Srila Prabhupada, distributing books, and this is great. We have increased book distribution. That's very nice. But this 50% part, somehow we have neglected, and this is not correct. And we should at least revive it now.
Yeah, I have done a little bit of study, kind of collecting different powerful quotes. Prabhupada talked about Varnashram literally thousands of times. If you go through the folio, and some of the, he says, human society doesn't begin until there's Varnashram. There's many powerful things like this. But it seems to me that the greatest obstacle for establishing Varnashram and ISKCON is ISKCON itself. Our leaders haven't understood the importance of Srila Prabhupada's instruction. It's even one thing sufficient in itself to say 50% of my work is left undone. So what are we working for if we're not working for the establishment of Varnashram?
I fully agree with you, Prabhuji. We should, it's something ISKCON itself, we have to wake up.
You also brought up the situation at Lechmore Heath, where Srila Prabhupada instructed the devotees to grow food and produce milk. And it's become a tourist destination. Millions of Hindus come there on festivals, and they collect lots of money from the Hindu community. But if society is going to deteriorate as we expect it to, how will that help them?
Yeah.
We have to be able to show an example to people.
Yes.
I mean, sorry to be negative, but I mean, these things occur to me.
Yes, yes, yes. Actually, I have met a few Srila Prabhupada disciples. They have very clear in their mind that this is Prabhupada's instruction, and somehow we have not been able to do it so far. But in the present generation, what I see, the devotees who are joining now, they don't even have any concept, any understanding of Varnashram at all. That Srila Prabhupada wanted it. There's even sorry picture, much more sorry in the present day. Among the present day devotees, the new next generation, this concept itself, they don't know. It's very bad.
Even I heard one GBC make, not offensive, but make a comment about Varnashram. Oh, Varnashram means a skinny cow, a mud hut, and a little boy. They just don't, they don't. I just had lunch with His Holiness Bhakti Raghav Maharaj, who is actually building a school. He has a nice plan to do something small, but powerful here in Mayapur. So, and because of the negativity and misunderstanding and lack of understanding of the importance of Varnashram, he's actually been forced to work independently.
Yes.
Just to get the job done.
Yes.
Anyway, I was very impressed by him. Just, I mean, he does what he talks about. He lives what he talks about. And he's established a couple of farms in Hebri, in Salem, in Sayadri. I think 3 different projects he has going. And he showed me his flip book with cows, with bright face Gurukula students, 30, 40 Gurukula students, and simple living and high thinking. When he goes there, he won't eat he won't eat anything that isn't produced on the farm.
Yes, yes, it's very inspiring. Bhakti Raghav Maharaj has been very inspiring. There are a few Prabhupada disciples who are inspiring us. Here we are also trying a few communities under the guidance of Bhakti Vikas Maharaj.
His Holiness Bhakti Vikas, another sterling example.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, I appreciate I hope this has been recorded.
Yes, Prabhuji. I'll send that recording, Prabhuji.
Okay,
Tomorrow
I'd like to listen to it. I'd like to listen to it a second time.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Prabhuji mentioned some very important things. Maybe someone else has some question also. I don't want to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So please ask any question you have. I have some questions, so please ask so that later I can ask questions. Prabhuji, I have one query that you are closely associated with Nandgram project, Gujarat. You are closely associated, Savyasachi Prabhuji. So I want to understand that what kind of problem you faced there. And second query is that Mayapur, such a big land. So can it be, although it is a dham, the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so can it be established here, farm community? So I have the 2 query, Prabhuji. I think, and Sri Krishna Kumar Prabhuji also joined from Hyderabad. So I think that he may have some question. Krishna Kumar Prabhuji, senior disciple of Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I'm not a senior disciple. Srila Prabhupada. It was very enlightening lecture, Prabhu, actually. We have always been inspired by devotees like Savyasachi Prabhu, whom we had a good chance to work with. Whatever little contribution we can make, we're trying. But yeah, but it is very sad to see Prabhu, Savyasachi Prabhu. I think you have discussed a lot also. But what do you think is the most formidable challenge now, Prabhu? See, ISKCON is not taking seriously. That is all that is there. But otherwise, even if ISKCON was willing, right? See, I feel ISKCON is not willing because it is not easy to do. So what is the most formidable challenge? For example, people say it is not easy to become a Brahmana, or is it not easy to find the right people? Or people, I have even heard people saying the devotees themselves do not want to go to the farms, even if there is an option. I have heard different things, Prabhu. Actually, what do you feel is the most formidable challenge given an option of people have a choice to go to the farm, but still they would not go at?
Okay, before you, the other Prabhuji asked some question. It was one of the question was similar, so I'll answer that. Personally, what I've observed, what is the difficulty? The most important difficulty is that devotees are not mentally ready to take it up because of lack of emphasis on this from the leaders. They are able to sacrifice many things to practice Krishna consciousness, but because there is not a unanimous push from all quarters within our society, therefore devotees have confusion. Okay, some people are talking about it, some people even say that it is not required, you can be in the cities. So if it had been a simple preaching from all the leaders of our society, then it would have been a different picture. Personally, I started getting involved in such projects. Personally, I myself did agriculture. There is no real such problem. The most important problem is the mind. Just devotees are not ready to take it, to try it, to do it. Initially, when we started the project, before that, people used to say, nobody is going to come, nobody is going to come. But now we are seeing that in the last 10 years, there are devotees who are willing to come, but we are not able to cope up with providing spaces for them. And this is only a small section. Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, Bhakti Raghav Maharaj, they have been emphasizing on this. But if but from the others, on the other hand, other senior devotees and ISKCON leaders, they are not emphasizing it, or sometimes even they are speaking negative about this establishing farm communities. But if all of us, all the leaders, preach emphatically about it, then still it is much doable. Of course, those who are living in the cities, one is that when they take to Krishna consciousness, they are already generally above 25 years of age. They are generally around 30. By the time they get fixed up in Krishna consciousness, they are around 30, 35. And by the time they understand the importance of Varnasrama, they are already 35. So that is not the right age to start farming, because they are already a little old. So therefore, we have to also recruit devotees when they are young. So therefore, we need gurukulas, wherever devotees children from young age they can be trained. But in present day, in our ISKCON, the gurukulas are again focusing on training them for IITs, for material education again. So where is the future? Our gurukula should be there to train devotee children for farm projects. So that is a sad situation we are facing. So I think this is the most important deterrent, as Sarvadrik Prabhu rightly pointed out. ISKCON itself is the biggest problem. Our not preaching it, not taking this is the biggest problem.
So thank you for throwing the light, but yeah, it is tough, Prabhu. It is tough, really tough, actually. At this point of time, maybe situations might become more favorable for this kind of preaching going forward, but at this point of time, it's tough to work. I also have first-hand experience of preachers in ISKCON who are not so favorable, and not only not favorable, not so encouraging towards Varnashram also. A little discouraging. So. But what Prabhu, one interesting thing I heard is you said we are doing a lot of book distribution, but the balance is are we out of balance, Prabhu? Are we doing more book distribution and less preaching about farm communities? So in that sense, would you suggest that actually in the current scenario, preaching about the importance of the farms is probably more important than book distribution? Then
I would not say more important, but we should not neglect preaching about the farms. Book distribution and farms, Prabhupada emphasized them equally, book distribution and farms. So once we distribute books, at the same time, we need to demonstrate what is there in the books. Presently, we are distributing books, but then we are not at all focusing on demonstrating what is there in the books. So in that way, it is imbalance.
Another thing that you mentioned about people think of ISKCON, and then to a certain extent it's true, as a society of sannyasis, Brahmins, and brahmacharis. But the masses of people will never be attracted to that. If they ask us, your books are very nice, show us a practical example of Krishna consciousness. And if we point to the sannyas ashram, who will be attracted? We need to be able to point to prosperous families who are happy, healthy, in a good relationship, who are producing their own food, who have a beautiful place to live, who have community. We have everything the world actually wants, but we haven't figured out how to give it to them, because everyone thinks, oh, Hare Krishna, oh, they have those rules, and they're all sannyasis. Even brahmacharis, they think, oh, my son took sannyas because he became a brahmachari. There's a lot of ignorance, even within our society, of how to present Krishna consciousness, to show an example of happy life. And this is the happiest life. My wife and I lived in a farm community in North Carolina for 10 years. Such a happy life, growing our own food, heating the house with wood, getting water from a well. Such a happy life.
Yes, yes. Actually, personally, we are experiencing, as Sarvati Prabhu said, he himself experienced. It's a very happy life. Those who are living in the farm still today, if you come and meet them, they are happy. They compare their previous life, living in the cities, when they compare that life to their present life, they are very, very happy. So it is only in the mind that people think it is very austere. We say that actually living in the cities is actually austere. But people have to experience. You cannot have the taste of honey without tasting the honey. So people have to live this life to experience it. But people are not even they're not taking it seriously, because I would say they are not serious about their Krishna consciousness. Because if they are really serious about Krishna consciousness, then they will see the importance of forms. So I would say, because our preaching, people are kept in a neophyte stage, therefore they are not able to take this, this aspect of Krishna consciousness.
You can't have the taste of honey without a beehive also.
Yes.
So any more questions? Please ask. Any more question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you for your wonderful class. Prabhuji, as you have, today's class was regarding Varnashram and the farm community, and it is it leads to Krishna consciousness. So my question is, if we parents are keeping the farm community, establishing the farm community and leading our life that way, so how should we grow up our children? How should we train our children to grow up? Should we train them to become get addicted to city life, or should we also train them towards leading a life in a farm community?
Mataji, the connection got interrupted in between. I'm just repeating to understand whether I got you right or not. Your question is that while living in the cities, how you should bring up your children? Should you allow them to get addicted to the city life, or should you train them towards farm? Is that your question, or you are talking of a situation when you are situated in farm and then how to bring up children? What's exactly the question? You are situated in the farm, parents, or situated in cities?
Prabhuji, actually, I'm asking my question is that regarding we are interested in farm community as parents. So how we should raise up our children as doctors, engineers, or we should we push them towards administrative services, IITs, or we should train them to live life in a farm community? Like living a life in a farm community. My question is that
Well,
how
it
do
is.
we grow up our children?
Yes. Well, if you clearly understand that the way we have been living in the cities, it's not favorable for Krishna consciousness, not good for material living as well. It just leads to increased stress and many problems. So if we are convinced of this, then definitely, naturally, we should not encourage our children to become part of that same society again. Joining engineering colleges or medical colleges is again, we are pushing them into the same society. And with the progression of time, the situation is going to be worse in these cities. So if we are convinced of this, and at the same time we are convinced that actually living on the farms is the real life, then we should encourage our children towards the farm life. But the point is, we will not be actually able to encourage our children towards the farm life if we ourselves are not taking some substantial steps to place ourselves also in some farm or connected to the farm. We also have to show by our own example. Otherwise, children will not take it seriously. So there is endeavor needed, not just encouraging them, but doing something ourselves also towards that direction of going to farms. So visit some farms with your family members so that children can be inspired. That can be one practical step. For example, spend some time in those farm communities where devotees are living. There are a few farm communities in India, so that can be one step. How you can at least make your children aware of this farm communities and its importance, so that when they grow up and when they have a choice, they can choose it. And best would be to place them in one such gurukula where they can be trained right there in such setup in the farms and taking this life fully. That would be the best.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
And Prabhuji, Mayapur, being a dham, Prabhuji, is there any need for Varnashram, or what's your opinion, Prabhuji?
Okay.
My last query.
Okay. Sarvadip Prabhu is with us, and he will know much more about that. Srila Prabhupada desired that there should be a Mayapur project should be a farm community project. So this is what I understand. Prabhupada instructed Jayapataka Swami Maharaj to develop handloom, and ultimately that was the vision, that Mayapur should be developed as a Krishna conscious village. So it's a dham, and it's a word headquarter of ISKCON. So that should, Prabhupada said also that every center should be connected to a farm community. So therefore, our Mayapur project should have a farm community as well, and this will be very befitting for this project. But how to do it? Because I am not situated in Mayapur and I am not connected with management in any way, I can't comment on the practicalities of that. But definitely, Prabhupada, what I understand, Prabhupada wanted that Mayapur should develop as a farm community. So, okay, as a dham for pilgrims, that is a necessity, but we should not, we should also work on establishing a farm community in Mayapur. That's my understanding. Sarvadip Prabhu can throw more light on that.
Absolutely, Prabhu. Prabhupada said many things in this regard. The same problem can be there if we turn Mayapur into a tourist destination and cater to the entertainment and sense gratification of the tourists, then we failed. We need to show Mayapur and develop cottage industries and a way of life, a Krishna-centered way of life, that someone comes here, they can leave with a vision of how to start their own community or how to reform their own community as an example of what to do. Not just come here, eat good food, take darshan, put 100 rupees in the hundi, and then go home and say, oh yeah, Mayapur is great. We took baths in the Ganga. But what did they learn? What did they take away from Mayapur? They should take away what is the lifestyle a Krishna conscious lifestyle and what's an example of that lifestyle. But the problem is people come here and it's complicated because much of the land here is so embroiled in controversy where there's like 3 different families owning a small piece of land, how to even buy land. Now, ISKCON has a lot of land now, but we can hope, and I'm not directly involved, but we can hope that a significant portion of that land will be set aside to grow food, because you can't eat paper rupee notes, you can't eat concrete and steel. We need to eat food that's produced from this very fertile land that surrounds the entire project.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about it. We'll see what happens.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
So if there is no other questions,
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Prabhu,
is there-
can I ask just one more question?
yes, sure. Please go ahead.
The Prabhu, Pranam Prabhu, Savyasachi Prabhu, Prabhu,
Yes, Prabhu.
we are far from probably idealistic Varnashram, that is clear. But what I have one idea, Prabhu, you can just tell whether I'm thinking right or not. One concept that can have a better chance of success even in the current situation is if we promote Vanaprastha life. For example, if we encourage people to retire early as much as possible and then spend at least their Vanaprastha life for full-time service, that is probably going to be more successful. Prabhu. Actually, it does not require too many. It does not have too much of obstacles, I feel actually. So should we promote that at least, which has a better probability of success? Early retirement, and full-time service.
Yeah.
That is that. Would you consider that as a Vanaprastha, close to Vanaprastha life, or what is your idea, Prabhu?
Of course, that will also help, but still it will be a very small step. And somehow farm communities primarily means we are talking of grahasthas. So the Gurukulas, emphasis on the Gurukulas, I would say that would be the mainstay. Yeah, telling people to retire early will be helpful, definitely. There are many such things which can help. But how this alone will lead to the full-fledged Varnasrama, we cannot see the whole link. Because it's a one step, people can just do some of them and just stay with that. Ultimately, with whatever step we do as a beginning, ultimately we have to grow our food, shift to the land. Unless we do that, we are nowhere close to establishing Varnashram.
So that, yeah, it doesn't add to the whole picture, but at least it may help a little bit. Whatever you
Yeah,
are doing,
yeah,
it may
yeah.
help a little bit. Yes.
Yeah, that's there. Some help will be there, no doubt.
Yeah, but I see
Okay.
your point, Prabhu. I see your point. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much to all the devotees.
So thank you so much, Savyasachi Prabhuji. We request you to come again and again. Some in-depth analysis and introduction part is very, very wonderful, very nice. And I sent the recording also, Prabhuji. So request you once more to come and give a lecture on another topic or this topic, because this is just an introduction. So our
Yes.
heartfelt gratitude to you, Prabhuji. Our humble obeisances at your feet, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Thank you all.